Hi, my name is Patty Moore. I grew up in Edgemere, right around the corner from the church. I'm the youngest of 11. I think it was a good childhood. There was always people around, you know. My older brothers were already gone. Two of my brothers had passed, one in 58 when I was 4 and one when I was 9 in 63. I went to Edgemere Elementary. I went to Sparrows Point Annex for a while before they opened up General John Stricker, and then I went to high school at Sparrows Point. My first job was with the White Coffee Pot when I was on the weekends on school. I worked as a soda fountain. They had an ice cream counter there that they had opened, and I started there, and then I went to waitressing. I took the civil service test sitting in the cafeteria of the high school, and I got called, and I started working out there on Security Boulevard. Worked for the federal government for 40 years.
Wow.
40 years, yeah. I retired in 2012. Growing up, we went to church. We went to this church. My mom actually used to go to this church, but they both made sure that we still went to church, us kids. I went to CYC. I love that. I still have the badges.
Oh, do you?
That's kind of sad. But yeah, I have my sash, but mine's a lot older than yours.
Sure.
But yeah. And church camp, went to the Free Methodist Church camp over in Spencerville. I remember that, how I looked forward to it, going there. I think as I got older, closer to my teen years, I kind of stopped coming to church. I just didn't, you know, I mean, there's no specific reason for not going to church. Then I got married. I still didn't really go to church. In 1980, my mom passed away, and Bobby wasn't quite 2 years old then. But, so I was like 26 when she passed, and that was a big event for me. Mm-hmm. You know, my mom and I were, of course, very close, and I thought my life was over. But I had Bobby. And actually at the same time, Bob, my husband Bob, was having his issues with drinking and stuff like that. And he was, so my mom had cancer. I was trying to, you know, with her having cancer and him, and things just didn't work out. And so after my mom passed, and it just seemed like Bob and I, you know, split up. And you know, it's like, how much strength do I have? You know, I guess at that point, single mom with just Bobby. And then I had Sarah. And Bobby was almost 6 years old, so it was always Bobby and me. Bobby was born in 79, and Sarah was born in 84.
So you'd say you're probably far from the Lord at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, he wasn't my priority. You know, I didn't have him in my life. Looking back, bad decisions. I was blessed with Sarah, so it was me, Bobby, and Sarah. You know, me, Bobby, and Sarah. And then I met someone. Once again, I didn't have the Lord in my life, you know, so then it was us. When I moved to Gray Haven, we started going to Inverness Presbyterian Church, which was not far from where we lived, and we went there. And once again, I don't have a reason why, but then we kind of stopped going there. Fast forward, so Bobby is in high school and Sarah's in middle school. Bobby graduated in 1997. He had a car. Him and we had got a car together. He was working. He, you know, helped pay for his stuff. The one car we got was like a used car, of course, but it was a lemon. It wasn't going nowhere. So we ended up getting another car so he could have transportation, especially since he worked out Perry Hall area. It was on a Wednesday, November the 5th, 1997, and Bobby had been out earlier with his friends. I was in my basement and I heard someone come in my front door, and then I heard someone call my name Miss Trish, because that's what they called me, my friends and Bobby's and Sarah's friends. And I went upstairs and they said, it was Ray and Chris, two of his friends, and they said, Bobby had an accident. I said, where? They said, right there on Trapp Road in front of Stricker, right around the corner where we lived. My neighbor heard next door, and she drove me up there. I wasn't expecting to see what I saw. Bobby's car was upside down, and he had hit the pole that was in front of the school. And they had already got him out of there with whatever they used, and they flew him to shock trauma downtown. He was on life support for 5 days. Things like that, all kinds of things come to your mind, and everything. But I just remember friends and his friends constantly coming to see him, and I stayed up there. And one time I went home, and I think just to get someone maybe go home and get some stuff and all. But I just would rub his feet, and stuff like that to try to get him to some type of interaction. And a pastor that was at Inverness Presbyterian, I remember him coming and praying over Bobby. And Bobby was an organ donor. And because Bobby was an organ donor, when he came home and told me that he put on his driver's license he was an organ donor, I became one. I never was, but I thought if my son can do that, I can do that too. So of course they talked to Bobby's dad and myself, and I donated everything but his eyes. I don't know why. Because I just could always look in his eyes. He was never going to leave me. He always used to say that to me when I was younger, even in high school. He always say, Sarah, I'm going to leave the house, but I'm never going to leave your mom. So on November the 10th, that's when they declared it. And then it just is like a whirlwind that, everything starts happening too. Whereas like when Bobby passed, Sarah's the one who got me up for work. I would be in bed and she would wake me up. She was 12. She would say, Mom, you gotta get up. You gotta go to work. And as a sibling, I think about things now, and I kind of like didn't help her as far as with Bobby's. And I found out later that she wrote a thing about it in high school. My sister Linda, it had to be my sister Linda that talked to Pastor Tim. And I had met him before. I had met Pastor Tim when my mom passed away, because he did her funeral. So it's not like I didn't know him and all, but not coming to the church. So I met with your dad. I'm sure Linda and Bob gave him a lot of information about Bobby because they were very close with him. That's when I started coming here to the church across the street. After my dad passed 3 months later, after Bobby did. So I had always said I wanted to move back where I would grow up, and so I bought my parents' house. I just knew because I was coming to church, I sat over there every Sunday after Bobby passed. Every Sunday I came, and I sat over there and cried. But I felt that I felt the comfort of the church family, and I felt in my heart, I knew that I needed to be there. I needed to be there because I didn't feel like I could go on without accepting that there's only one that will be able to help me through this journey. I felt that God knew what I was going through. He had a son, I had a son. I mean, that's how I kind of like went through it. He had a son, I had a son, so he knows what I'm going through. I just knew that. I just sat over there and cried every Sunday. But listen, I was absorbing it, not knowing probably that I was absorbing that. And just the caring and the guidance that some of the church family gave to me, you know. Days were like a blur. I would talk about it on Wednesday night Bible study as some of the things that would go through my mind that the devil was trying to do. I even talked to somebody in Walmart. I heard these ladies talking about Jesus, and of course I like made myself into the conversation, and I told them, I said, I know what the devil can do. I said, because where I work, I go over the Key Bridge. And I said, I would think this is the way I could go. Just, you know, I mean, it was those things in my mind, yes. You know, that I would, and they told me, which I knew, they would say, you would just say, cry out to Jesus the whole time you're driving, you know. And I did. I mean, it's like the tricks that he will play on you are real. Yeah. They're not like, you know, they're real. He'll get a hold of whatever little weakness when you are down, and he'll get a hold of you. And I mean, even till this day, he tries, you know. I mean, he tries. In 2002, which would have been about 5 years after Bobby passed, I mean, I was still coming to church and all and everything and all, but I went to the altar, and I asked God for his forgiveness. I accepted him and knew that he is the one and only that can help you through anything. And realize that it's through the good and the bad you have to know that he's there. It's not just, it's unfortunate, like when tragedy happens, I've said it and I know that it is true since I've been through it. How does anybody go through things without knowing the Lord? Even through the pain and it hurts and all that, you have something to look forward to that is better than here. Better than here. So in 2002, I accepted the Lord, but I still felt, and I felt like something was still not right. And I kind of like my life between 97 and all, it's just like I was tired. I don't know what the other word is. I was just tired. But in 2002, I gave my heart to the Lord, but I just felt like there was still something wrong. And it was the relationship that I had with the other person that was living in my house. Something clicked, and that changed completely that summer. And the thing is that when Bobby passed, we never had an intimate relationship after that. Never, ever. he was just living, I mean, we just did our things, I mean, he went to family things. I don't know why, but that was it. It was like it's just like, nope, maybe that was the start of God speaking to me. And I just felt like that was lifted off of me then.
Sure.
It was like,
Yeah.
and why I never did it beforehand, I just felt like I was just going through the motions of living, working and taking Sarah and, stuff like that. And after 2002, my life, with the changes I made, I felt better, pressing on, I guess you could say, as far as not letting the devil catching me at my weak moments and stuff like that and all. Sarah graduated in 2002. I had renovated my house over there. Between all that time when I moved down there, I renovated it. I wanted a deck put on my house. So I knew someone that did that in the area. He told me that he was really busy, he would do it, but he could recommend a couple people for me. And someone that lived over in Fort Howard. And I told him what I wanted. He told me about how much it would be. And I said, okay. And so then I called the other person in Fort Howard, and he came and told him what I wanted. And he said, okay. He said, about how much it would be. And I said, okay. I walked down to my sister Helen's, and I said, I don't know, I got these 2 quotes, and I just don't know what to do. Being a single person, I wanted to make sure I was getting the best deal and for what I wanted. And she said, well, just pray about it. That's exactly what she said. Just pray about it. And I prayed about it. On my way walking back home, I get a phone call, and it was from the guy in Fort Howard, David, and said, I came home, I reworked it, I can do it for X amount. And I said, you got the job. And I thought, how is that? And I mean, that's true. It's like true. It's like, and I never knew him. He went to Spirit Spring. He was 4 years younger than me. He came and talked about more of the deck, and we talked about my family a little bit, that I went to Edgemere Free Methodist Church. He told me that he had 2 little boys. He was divorced, and he went to Bethel Assembly of God. So David came to work on my deck. I, of course, was working, and so I would meet with him in the morning to see what he was going to do that day. And David used to say to me, you just coming out here to see me, stuff like that to me. He was a character. I didn't like I said, I never even knew him, but his personality, you felt like you knew him. He asked me if I wanted to go to dinner one time after he had been working on my deck for a while. He asked me if I wanted to go to dinner, and I didn't know what to say. So I remember saying to him, okay, I'll go to dinner, but it's not a date. I remember saying, it's only dinner, it's not a date. And so we did. We went to Costas, and it was nice. It was nice. And I remember Sarah saying to him when she did see him, are you trying to make the move? Because here she knew I was home by myself, but she was like, he, of course he did. He was funny with her too. I look back, and I do remember saying to the Lord after Bobby passed, what am I going to do? What am I supposed to do now? And I just remember saying that for a long time. What am I supposed to do now? And then I met David, and he had 2 little boys, and my daughter was in college. So it's like, so anyway, as time went on, I just felt like, I don't know, I just felt like something was happening here. I actually started attending David's church along with coming here. David would come with me here at 8:30, and I would stay for Sunday school here. He would leave, go to his Sunday school, and then I would meet him for his 11 o'clock service. I just remember it was February of 2004. He asked me to marry him. And I just thought, here I'm turning 50. I never, ever thought I would be married again. Never. I really didn't. And I just felt like this was the person because of our same involvement and who we put first and who we knew we both had in our lives was Jesus, because David, before I knew him, evidently had a not so good life in whatever he was doing. Yeah, and I didn't know him then, you know, but I did know the person I met, and I knew how devoted he was to the Lord and devoted to his 2 boys. I knew that. We were actually, after his 11 o'clock service, he asked me if I would marry him. And he had already asked Sarah, but she said, I didn't think he was going to ask you today when I called and told her. And I thought, this is the right track. This is where the Lord wants me, you know. And so we talked to Tim, Pastor Tim, and who David, of course, met, and then also David's pastor, Pastor Karras, who has since passed. And they were going to both do our ceremony together here at Edgemere. And that was the first wedding here since this new building had been built. It was a very nice wedding.
What was the date?
That was June 19th, 2004. I do remember David telling me he said, I didn't think I would cry, but when I saw you walking up the aisle, he said, I could feel myself crying. And I thought, but so he did have that side to him, even though he was a character and all. Then we had our reception up at the fire hall.
Would you say that was the first time you had been happy in a long time?
Yes. Happy in the way that I knew now my life is going to be okay. I mean, I'm going to be okay. I mean, I knew that there was things that God wanted me to still do that he didn't expect me to just dwell on the tragedy of my life, you know, and that there's more that he wants me to have in this world, you know, in my lifetime. I was content. I was happy prior to David, but I often and all said that out loud to God, it's like, what am I supposed to do? You know, I mean, I have Sarah, but, you know, she was getting her own life eventually. You know, she's not going to, you know, what do you want me to do, Lord? I used to walk around saying that. Then David came into my life. Here I was married in 2004. I was like in the routine of working and then also coming home to David, and the week we had them, the 2 boys. About 2 years goes by, and February the 17th was a Friday, and David and I got up. We didn't have the boys that week. Got up. I was going to work. David was he had 2 new hunting dogs, and he was taking them, and he was going to the property in West Virginia to check on it, since it was winter time. He wanted to go down there and check on things, and I told him I had to go to work. He wanted me to go, but I told him I had to go to work. David had a phone, flip phone back then, I guess. He was one that he didn't like to be talking on the phone either, but I went to work. I remember he said something about making the bed. I said, no, it's your turn to make the bed. went to work. He called me, I guess it may have been around lunchtime or something. I talked to him, and he was doing something in the house down there in West Virginia. David was one that left his phone, especially down there, he wouldn't have it on him. I tried to call him several times. I thought, well, you know what, he's outside doing something, you know, he's involved in treat stands or whatever, you know. And I didn't hear from him. I couldn't understand why he wasn't calling me back, so I didn't hear from him. So the next day, which I thought, well, why isn't he, you know? So I called the closest neighbor we had, which wasn't really that far. The other ones were farther away, since we had big property down there, a lot of property. And I left a message, and I said, Eric, Patsy, I said, can you go up the property, see what David's doing? I haven't heard from him. And here I'm cleaning the house on Saturday, and I thought, because David was a clean freak too, and I was cleaning everything and all, and I thought, well, when he comes home, I'll be surprised. So I got a call, and it was my neighbor Patsy. And she said, Trish, you need to get down here. Something's happened to David. And she said they were supposed to medevac him, but they got an ambulance. And when her husband Eric went up there to see David, he found him wedged between his dump truck and the garage door. And he had been there all night. And he was still alive, Eric said, and he told Eric to get him out. And Eric didn't want to, because he knew if he released him. But he said, no, get me out. And so he said he did. And he just said, Eric, I feel funny. To get me a soda. David never drank a soda. And anyway, I called Sarah. I called David's sister. I told her. And I called Sarah. We headed to West Virginia. We're making all these calls, and Sarah's making all these calls to people, his friends. Somehow things were getting out to people, but I'm not even sure who even called. I told Sarah that he had died. They say that from the garage, that evidently, I think when you get released and you've been crushed, that it goes through your system. I'm not sure.
He collapsed there after that.
Yeah, Eric sat him down on the ground, and that's when he said something about getting him a soda, and then he told Eric, he said, I don't feel something's happening. That's what he said, something's happening. And this is in February, so I'm not even sure what the temperature was, because he had been out there. The garage, it's a big garage, and there was an old dump truck that David used to use for his business here, and he had taken up West Virginia, and it was hard to start. Somehow the truck pushed him up against the side of the garage door and pinned him there. So I just know God, Jesus had to be with David. David had to be praying and holy. His dogs were still there with him, his little dogs. And so I get down there and go to the Potomac Hospital where they had him. And I know David knew the Lord. Again, I don't know, it's like you have so many times, I've had so many times to say, why didn't I do this? For him and Bobby, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? Why didn't I go with him that day? Why didn't I call beforehand and ask people to check on him? I don't know. I can still hear him sing that song, Take Me Home. He used to sing that. Do I have regrets about things? Maybe I do. I shouldn't say maybe, but could I have changed anything? I don't know. Same with Bobby. Why didn't I beep him before he was heading to meet his friends? You know, maybe that would have, I don't know. I think that as a human, we think about things like that when we are in situations or we've had tragedy in our life. Could I have done something different? Or why didn't I do something different and all? But unfortunately, that another part of that with David passing is that I didn't get to see his boys anymore. So, all right, it's like now again, I said, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do now? What am I supposed to do? I'm going to continue living my life. I'm going to still, I'm sure I probably said, why me? I think it's why me. The life that we live on this earth that is so out of sync with the Lord, you know, and I still struggle. I still struggle from Bobby's. It'll be 27 years this November. David, it will be 18 years. It's still a struggle. You know, it's something that as a parent that has gone through this, we remember them. But it's like we remember them as they were. We remember them maybe as we think they would be. And David, we only had that not even 2 years together. I felt we were living the life that was meant for us to be. And it was walking with the Lord. Now I get to see the growth of my two granddaughters, Rowan and Renlee. It's just like another part of your life, another chapter, you know, of me getting older, but now seeing another chapter in my life that I can help with and experience the joys, the not so joyful things sometimes, you know, but the joys and seeing that there's more to my life that God wants me to do. I still come here. I always said that. I said, unless I cannot drive anymore, that's my home church, and I'm going to go there as long as I can. I'm still growing in the Lord. I feel like sometimes I'm not doing all I can do. God is showing me that through all this stuff that He is faithful, that He's never left my side. All I have to do is ask Him and pray to Him. He's constant. Nothing changes with Him. Whereas, we all know that people come and go, but even though we don't see Him, I think that's where it's hard for people. You can't see Him, but if you have faith and you read the Bible, there's things in the Bible that will help you through whatever you're going through. You just gotta look. I always had Proverbs 5-6, trust in the Lord with all your might. And it's like, I do that, I know that I may not understand this, and I don't understand it, but He does. He's there for you to lean on. There's a song that the anchor holds the waves.
The anchor holds the ship is
battered. And I felt like that's what I was. I was the ship, and I was battered. And I knew that if I didn't dig deep, and if I didn't hold on to the Lord, I wouldn't be here. I know that people that have gone to church and the tragedies happen, and they've just left. It drew me to Him. So I knew there had to be something that drew me to Him. Like I said, every Sunday I sat over there. My heart felt I needed to be there. Even when I was at work, I felt like I needed to be there. I know the Lord is everywhere, but I felt I needed to be there. It's true that if you don't constantly tell yourself that the Lord is our anchor, you got to be steadfast. You got to hold on strong, and through knowing the Lord, and tragedies happen, it's not going to hurt. It's not like you're not going to ask the questions, but you're going to know who's there with you through it all. Someone that has gone or is going through tragedy right now, I would say that if you know the Lord, dig deeper. Whether it's reading the Bible more, I know that's what I did. I read the Bible. I read the scriptures and all, but to dig deeper, to know that you're going to sway. You're going to question. You may question, what could I have done different? Or even say, why, Lord? And I know that I've said that many times, but if you have the faith already and that you believe in the Lord, it's just dig deep, I just feel like I can just see the anchor being dug down deeper. And what He's doing, He's holding on, you're holding on to Him, and He's not going to move. If anybody's going to move, it's going to be you. I'm so grateful and so blessed and thankful that I did turn to the Lord and not turn elsewhere, which I know people do. The hurt, that's because we have a heart that the Lord wants us to open up to Him. So you're going to feel the hurt. Do I wish things were different? Yes. Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't? I can just see my son. I can close my eyes and see him, and then I imagine. Remember, the devil is waiting. The devil is waiting to get you when you're weak. Cry out to Jesus. Where I'm sitting right now, who imagines your life going through the tragedies like that? I still have more to do, and I know the Lord knows I still have more to do. Yeah, wherever He leads me, Because of Christ, I can have joy in the midst of suffering. God is good.